turn it over to Ms. Campbell then.
Since we've got Matthew here, I'm gonna let him go first, that way he doesn't have to sit through the whole thing.
Oh, Matthew, surely you would wanna sit through this meeting.
So I'll be honest, this is the most people, I've been to a couple of these, so this is the most people I've seen. So I was like, this looks like a lively group.
Hey, you're
depending on the budget night.
I'm a couple of
Michael, don't push my button, you're already pushing it. We have a whole lot of people sometimes, in fact, we have to move up and move Sue out, don't we, Sue?
You push, I'm gonna get that
One
one
of these to pass it around, just a little bit of a handout. So I'm Matt Davis, I'm from JMT, Johnson, Murmuran, and Thompson. We're the wastewater consultant. I think we met before. Dean Hellstrom is sometimes was at these things, he's no longer at JMT, so I'll be filling in. So a couple updates on current projects, I think that'd be a good place to start, and then we'll open up some new stuff. So there's a SCADA project you guys have heard about. It's in construction right now. That's tracking along pretty good. We had one change order to date. And I think we're still tracking just fine with the schedule. Just one small thing, but everything should be in by end of June. Is where we're looking with that current project. At the last meeting, I wasn't here, but the new wastewater treatment plant phase 1 project that we've talked about for a long time got awarded and approved to Brazil Construction. So we sent out the notice of award. We're working on the contract right now so they can begin that work. And then the third project is the filter project, which is currently we're designing, working on. We have taken samples, sent those into the lab, and we're just working on that bit of equipment, so that one's still in process. So any questions on current projects? Okay, cool. Well, that sounds good. Well, one bit of good news is back in October, end of 2022, get my ears started flipped around. Yeah. We turned in a PER and an application for some American Rescue Plan funds for a little bit more work to occur. It sounds like those have been approved, and we're waiting on basically that contract to come to you all. As a part of that, we need to get an engineer-owner agreement in place within 30 days. And that's sort of why I'm here, sort of walk you through what those new projects would sort of look like. And then sort of set expectations, while also including that and what the cost would be. So I did just pass out a handout. So the first thing you'll see is just a civil site plan of how the treatment plant currently looks. Just to sort of familiarize you all, so that you see the railroad is just to the south of your sheet. And I'm about to say, you've seen this sort of once or twice maybe. You can see you have some tanks sort of the bottom of that sheet, and then some tanks sort of to the top. And then the creek just runs to the north. If you flip to that second page, you'll see sort of some highlighted areas for projects that are planned to occur at the treatment plant. And these have been identified before in some previous reports, except for one different one, which was sort of based on your conversations. So within that treatment plant, we have something that are secondary clarifiers that just sort of help clean that water on the end. There's a few issues with one of the older ones that went in 1985. So there's needing a little bit of equipment needing to get replaced. That's planned to be replaced and repaired in this new project. One of the other things you'll notice, say to the right of that sheet, there's some pump station improvements sort of called out. That was also original to the 85 plant, and it's a little overloaded right now. So those improvements are just to increase the capacity and make sure that that's in working order. That's sort of your workhorse of your treatment plant. So the plan is to basically take out that pump station and basically put all new workings in there. And the third one at the treatment plant is the replacement of the blowers that were originally installed in 1985. Whenever we turned in our PER originally, preliminary engineering report, the plan was not to replace those at the time, but since the wastewater treatment plant operators indicated that some of those are going out, making that a little bit higher of a priority. With wastewater treatment, air is incredibly important to make sure that it gets treated. So making sure to keep that air supply going is really an important object. Any questions, I guess, on proposed improvements at the plant? Okay, well, that's good. And then you go to the next sheet. You'll notice it's sort of a map of the whole wastewater system, whether that's gravity or some pressure pipe. You'll notice there's one box that is highlighted in orange, labeled the old lift station number 3. In a previous project, that was actually decommissioned, giving us some issues with the system as a whole. So within the new projects, the plan is to basically put in a brand new lift station at that location, which is just helps convey the sewer throughout the system and convey it to the wastewater treatment plant.
Do we know when that was decommissioned and why?
So that was in, I'll say, early 2000s. And I'll be honest, it was a different consultant at the time. We wouldn't have really advised taking that pump station offline because it sort of has overloaded the one at the treatment plant as well. So it's sort of your main issue with that is really at the plant. That pump station is really supposed to handle just what's at the treatment plant, but now it's picking up what's from the Hammond Avenue neighborhood and the treatment plant, which has really overloaded that pump. And that's, like I said, that's sort of your workhorse for your whole treatment plant. So that's sort of why the intent is to put it back online. Like I said, whenever we were reviewing the documents, we did not feel very comfortable with why they took that off. But that's why the intent is to basically put a brand new one back in service.
So did they, in the report that you read, did they specify why they took it offline?
Like I said, that one was done in like early 2000s before we came online.
Right.
I think the intent was they thought there was enough capacity at the treatment plant pump station. But since our new assessment, we believe that's definitely not the case.
Well, of course not. They wouldn't have put a pump station there if that was the case.
Yeah. So
Makes no sense to take it
I know that's where we were sort of sitting with because I think we were the ones that did it in 1985. So whenever the new consultant came in and took that off, I guess a little bit of disagreement in opinion, but what we've done today is sort of pointed us in that direction. So any other questions on that? Okay, great. Next sheet is the fun one. So one thing I want to clarify with this is as a part of those ARP funds, a lot of this is covered within the grant, which is, it's a pretty interesting time right now. The federal government's putting out quite a bit of money, and TDEC basically approved the second round of it for us to allow us to start handling some of these other projects. So you'll see there, we have a few things sort of listed that I just sort of went over. You'll see on that top line, you'll have that secondary clarifier improvements, just really some replacements there included in that. The next line, you'll see that new plant drainage pump station listed. That third one, you'll see new sanitary sewer lift station. We sort of broke it up by what would be sort of included in there. The next line item down is the blower installation / replacement, which we sort of just described a little bit ago. Originally, the intent was to have some of this cover the dewatering equipment. That became a little bit, I think, higher of a priority. And then that last item is sort of a catch-all. We're got a little bit of grading, a little bit of site work, a little bit of fencing, some instrumentation and electrical. That's what that last line is. So you'll see a total estimated construction cost for all of those projects is at $1.4 million. And then you'll sort of see down there's some design fees and other things sort of lumped together. The one other thing I want to mention is you'll see there's an asset management plan, sort of 3 lines from the bottom. That's a requirement with that grant funding. So that's why that has to get done, otherwise none of the other funds are available. And you'll see on that last sheet, it's just another iteration of that. You'll see there's a little bit of grant admin in there. You'll see the engineering design fees in there, construction costs, some of the inspection costs for folks to be on there and make sure the work goes in correctly. And then that second big box is that asset management plan that I alluded to. So after going over everything, does anybody have any questions?
When's this whole thing gonna be done?
Okay, so as a part of the grant funding, for this round, it has to be bid by September of 2024. And has to be bid by December of 2024, I apologize, and done by September of 2026.
Done by when?
September of 2026.
2026?
Yes.
Shit, we done a long ways ago.
Actually, that is.
It's a lot faster than you think.
Yeah. We like to go by very
Yeah.
quickly.
I
Yeah.
hope so.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's I know 2026 sounds far away, but
For government work,
It's
that's
just-
extremely quick.
Yeah.
yeah, so now one thing with that is it's going to be very important to get on it. One thing that we're anticipating across the industry is there's going to be a lot of money out there, a lot of folks bidding on stuff, so ideally we push it along as fast as we can, so while contractors are still available. Good thing is, Emily and I talked about this a little bit with Brazil starting with their phase. We're hoping that will encourage them to bid on these as well. While they're already there doing work. I don't think people like moving, right? So that's just keep doing stuff where you're doing it. Did that sort of answer your question?
Yep.
Okay, excellent.
Except one part, not the sewer rates.
The what?
Reduce the sewer rates.
I'm about to say, I'm gonna defer to somebody else on that one, so.
I did have somebody ask me why they had put the fencing around the lift pipes.
Yes,
I told them safety.
so it's a security thing, and
People
TDEC.
carrying them up.
What?
People carrying them up.
Exactly.
Like we did once before, had them packed in too.
Oh, okay, I was not aware of that, but yeah, it's a security thing, and it's sort of a TDEC requirement. They strongly encourage you to have those fenced up. So that's one project that I wasn't working on, but yeah, that's another good one out there.
Yeah, they just wrapped that one up. But thank you for coming.
Absolutely.
Yes, anybody have any other questions?
Cool, well, excellent. Thank you all, appreciate it.
Well, you got off easy tonight.
I know, I was about to say, I heard the budget meeting, and I was like, oh, okay, that's good.
Okay, thank
We
you.
talked about that,
Yes.
so, great.
Okay, the next thing I've got, does anybody have anything pressing that they wanna bring up before I start? Cause we've got a lot of things we need to go over, so.
Well, let me do
Okay.
my little show before everybody gets in a roar. In a roar. Down there by Builder's First Source, I had started I had put 3 little dogwood trees, only 2 survived. So I talked to Jason to make sure it was okay with the boys because they have to mow around everything, but can you see? I thought we could use crepe myrtles. They have so many in Pigeon Forge and they're always pretty for quite a few months. And then, kind of give you an idea. I wanted to put a little stone thing on the very corner and have wildflowers and sunflowers. Jason, he's gonna measure it out and see what we can actually have.
Okay.
But I'll pay for this. I just don't wanna pay for the mulch. And I did put the flowers out like I promised. And that was over 150 some flowers in it.
That's what
We
she
were-
does with the pay that Mount Carmel gets her, is puts it in these flowers. She's done it for years. Even when she was here before as a,
Oh, yeah. I want to make town as pretty as I can. Everybody's driving by us on the highway, and to me, it's just a logical thing to make the town as attractive as we can.
To draw people in.
Sounds good.
The stone structure, you're gonna bring down the corner across from Builders First Source.
Yeah, on the very corner. Of course, the big old
Where the
trucks
four-way
keep,
stop is?
yeah,
Yeah, for the
where
truck.
the big old
keep running-
trucks. Yeah.
Running over the
Jason-
curb.
Yeah, Jason's gonna have to figure out how far back we're gonna have it spaced, but I thought in the fall it would be so cool to have, scarecrows.
Yeah.
We'll have one on both sides of it, and then later on I'll figure out a plant and tree for the other side. But right now, this is the medium.
You have any idea how much mulch you need?
Bags of mulch, is that what he said?
Yes. I mean, you
don't
need,
know.
What do you think?
Well, they had to dig up a bunch out here in front,
A bag's 2 cubic foot,
yeah.
so
It's
Now
gonna
they
be
got
a lot.
three.
Maybe a few bags.
Three for
It's gonna be a
$10, I
lot.
think.
If you contact Tri-City Tree Service, they might give you free mulch, keep them from having to haul it off to the
Well,
landfill.
that sounds nice.
You just have to call in and ask.
And who was it?
Tri-City Tree Service.
That sounds nice.
He's the one who dropped off a whole load from me at my house when he did one of the trees. And he said if I knew of anybody that wanted free mulch to have him call him and be added, he would drop it off.
Well, that sounds great.
That way there's
I'm
no
right by
take it
that.
from the landfill. Yep.
Tri-City, well, they'll be getting a whole lot of calls.
It just keeps them from having to take it to the landfill or whatever.
Tri-City Tree,
Tree service.
It'll be in the paper.
tree.
It'll be the paper.
Service. That's what it says.
I said that rubber mulch would hold up a lot better.
Oh.
I used to use that all the time.
I don't see how rain penetrates that to the ground though, Jim. How does the
It
rain get?
holds up good.
I'm not saying it doesn't hold up, but how does the rain get through it to the ground? How does that happen?
It's ground up rubber, it's ground up tires and stuff, it just got a different color to it.
I know, but the mulch does absorb the water. This ground was really wet when we planted the flowers from the mulch. Well, I'm through.
Well, they got on sale right now, I think 3 for $10.
That's cause nobody wants.
If you want some work, I'll go up there and buy you some.
I appreciate it, but I'm not sold on rubber mulch. Have you all used it? Have you used it, Sue?
At my mother's. In a small area because it's expensive.
Do what now?
I said in a small area because it's expensive,
Oh, the
It is.
rubber.
but it does hold up good.
Yeah, but what about the water? How does it filtrate into the
Her
ground?
flowers stood okay.
Do what?
Her flowers stood okay,
Well, we'll talk to.
We'll just buy something we can afford.
but it is expensive.
We got somebody here, she's stingy with money.
Well, if we get something free.
Yeah.
I don't know where Jason gets his at.
Did you get one?
Probably Lowe's, I'm not sure.
They got a mulching place down somewhere down where you go to that greenhouse.
Yeah.
Hey, it's
On
so
the
pretty.
fence.
Yeah, it's really cute. It's sunflowers and, a really pretty sun in the corner, so now that that's done, I feel like we're ready to move forward with planning that event. So, we need to establish a time and probably like a schedule, an actual
agenda.
agenda.
Can we
for
not
it.
have that after school one evening, about 5 o'clock, well, about 6 o'clock? Because when we had the other, I had some, parents call and say that they didn't get out till 5 o'clock.
Mhm.
And that, could we do it like after school, and then maybe some of the people picking their children up at school will just come straight up there, or, they can hand out something when they pick up their kids that day, saying that we will have that dedication, say at 6 o'clock at the park.
Whatever you all would like to do.
'Cause there's parents that would like their.
Have any suggestions?
The 26th at 6,
By Friday.
Friday.
Well,
what would Quinlan's
26th.
want?
I can't do on
That's a
Fridays.
good point, is,
I can
should
call
we-
Scotty and see what, cause Diamonds went back to work and everything, so I'll see what day and time work best for them.
okay, that's good,
So Fridays
Will
is
you
not,
take,
thank you.
Friday is not good for
will
me.
you take
Yeah.
care of, the reaching out to the people,
Yes.
reps, and kinda writing a formal agenda type deal?
Yeah.
Okay.
And if you can do anything except Friday, it is better.
Oh, it ain't me, it's them, and this is,
Yeah, I'm saying with, Friday is not a good time for me and people's going to the ball games everywhere else too.
So what day you gonna try for?
Well,
whatever day
we'll
works
talk
best for the
to-
parents.
Yeah, can you reach out
I'll
to them?
send them to
Okay. Okay, so that's, at least that's on everyone's radar. The primary thing we need to go through is the budget. I asked Mitch to come and give, a little update on the fire department, what they, what they need, what he thinks that they need over there, and, that way, if you all have questions about purchasing the brush truck and moving forward with that, he can answer them better than I can, so.
My name's Mitch Walker. I've met most of you. I'm the interim fire chief right now. We've been doing a lot of updates at the fire department, getting some stuff caught up. We're just trying to move things along, get things up to date where they need to be. Not that they're not, but there's always work to be done. The brush truck, the big budget request this year, the brush truck we're using, it's a multi-purpose vehicle. We refer to it as a brush truck because that's mostly what it's used for as far as firefighting, is fighting brush fires. But you can fight most any type of small fire with them. But it's a 2008 model. We've had numerous issues out of it. We used it to respond on probably 70% of our fire calls. Last year it responded on a total of 172 calls last calendar year. Now that's counting medical calls. The new pickup is within, I'm gonna say, 2 weeks of being done. We're just finishing up some wiring and putting radios, finishing the lights and sirens. Most of that is done. We've just got a few more things to button up on it. With that truck being complete, we'll be able to operate. The brush truck will have a little bit of a less workload on it. But it did respond on a total of 74 fire calls last year. So that's brush fires, car wrecks, service requests, and pretty much any type of fire-related incident. It responded on 30 brush fires, so that's 3 or 4 a month that we use it, and it allows us to access stuff that we can't get the big trucks to. It's also just a lot less wear and tear on those smaller trucks than it is running the big truck to things that we don't need to. So I'm happy to. I've got prices on new ones. I've got prices on some used stuff, but there's not anything. The used truck market is horrible right now, especially with something that we'd be looking at buying. Basically anything used you can find is in the same situation that our truck's in. So that would not be the way for us to go, in my opinion. We'd just be back to spending a ton of money in maintenance.
What's the lead time on the one right now?
The shortest I found is 12 to 14 months. The longest is about 24 months. So we're, even if it's ordered now, we're possibly looking into next fiscal year.
How do you want to set it up? Barrett, you just over.
So the older one, the one we have now, has kind of a rescue body on it.
Yeah.
We don't necessarily need that. What I'm looking at doing is putting like a flatbed unit in and having what's called a skid unit, so the tank and the pump is all mounted together, and it'll have tool compartments on the side. It'll make the truck a little more maneuverable, and it'll make it a little shorter for when we have to get off road to get to some of these fires. It'll make it.
So what did you say the size of the truck was?
The size, it's a F550 chassis, so it's about 20. They're about 18 feet long, 18 to 20 feet. Don't quote me on that, but
Okay.
the new truck is the truck we have now is about 23 feet.
So what kind of truck are you looking for? You looking for Ford, Dodge, GM?
Basically, what we can get is the honest answer. I mean, the chassis is that's the whole reason the wait time is 12 to 14 to possibly 2 years, is getting the chassis from the manufacturers. most everything I've quoted is on a Ford chassis. You can get, sometimes you can get a Dodge, but it just depends. I'm not partial to either one, to be honest. The one I've quoted that's more in our price range, that's 12 to 14 months, is on a Ford chassis.
So what about the old one we have? Has it been repaired?
I got a call yesterday. It is finishing being repaired. They're fixing up a couple more issues, because either way we're going to have this truck for another year, as long as we can afford to run it. But yes, we should have it back in a few days. But this service bill alone, or this repair bill alone, is $7,400. So since July 1st, that'll bring us to a little over $16,000 in that one truck. So yeah, that's our this fiscal year. Our maintenance budget is $20,000. So I mean.
And how does that work in regards of when we're purchasing that? If it rolls over into the next year, does that, like, do we have to budget that all up front this year?
So what I would prefer that we do is go ahead and budget it in this fiscal year. If we don't end up receiving it until next fiscal year, we'll carry that same amount into next fiscal year's budget to complete the purchase. But the chances, I mean, you know, it could be 12 months, it could be 14,
it could be short. It's
10.
possible that it's shorter, but that's
Yeah.
what they're telling you, is 12 to 14.
So we want to be prepared to buy it when it comes available. I think we need to go ahead and budget for it this year if we're planning on purchasing it, because if not, we're just going to be a year down the road looking, you know, in the same position basically.
We got that, this will be a 4-door truck too? Or 2-door?
I'm leaning towards an extended cab,
Okay.
just because it's more maneuverable, and with
Okay.
us having the medical truck that's 4-door, I think having that extended cab will be more beneficial for these tight places.
Okay.
With this truck out of service or without this truck, how much does that diminish your capacity to, I don't want to, like, I'm just trying to find the right words here. How much does that, like, decrease your capacity to be level?
We, like I said, we answered 30 fires related. Now, whether they're all large brush fires or small trash fires, 30 fires that we put out with this truck we answered last year. That's quite a bit. I mean, we respond on way more brush fires than we do structure fires. I mean,
And when there's a wreck or something, you all go to that too?
Yes, ma'am.
A lot of times, don't you, or most
Yes,
of the
ma'am.
time? And that little truck would be going deep, right?
Some, yes, ma'am. If it's a major accident and we're gonna have to extricate or remove somebody from a vehicle, the big engine needs to be there to have that protection on the ground in case of a flash fire or something like that. The problem with those little trucks is they don't have a ton of water on them, so when you go to flow in a lot of water, you're out in just a few seconds.
I guess bigger truck can block traffic a little better too, can't it?
Correct, especially on 11W, yes.
So the brush truck that you want to purchase will not be used for car accidents? That it's
I'm not gonna say it's not going to be used. The problem that the fire department has now is that we have all these trucks that are mostly getting older. We have the newer engine and we have the pickup, but everything else is 20 years old, or older. And they were bought used, so you know we get 3 or 4 years out of them, and we spend a ton of money on them, and then we're in this situation.
The chassis, if we're just replacing the chassis, the one that we have right now that we've had so many issues and problems with, what was your approximate value of that at?
The vehicle operating expense, it went from 2021, it was $9,834. 2022, $21,470, and I haven't checked the updated numbers, but just the projection for ending this year is going to be close to 26,000. So
And it's significant.
It's
It's significantly higher than that. We had to move some money around to 2017 from the
2017.
records we have, yes ma'am.
So what's that old truck worth?
That's, well, the ones that are around that same year model are going for around 30 to 35,000.
Can we get that much out of it?
I hope so.
For resale?
I'd like to.
You gotta put that on gov deals?
Yes, sir.
Or you wanna try to?
It has to go on gov deals, I believe.
Anyone else have any questions?
Yeah, I got one question. There's nothing I can do. This is your job. I'd like to recommend take intern off Mrs. Tyler.
Interim? Okay.
I'd like to take it off and make him a regular chief over there. Because I've been talking to him a lot. He's really knowledgeable about everything.
Yeah.
And I think we need somebody over
Some
there. that-
people are, maybe I'm good at fooling people. I'm just kidding.
His,
Yeah.
and his hand is swelling.
No, ma'am. I'm hanging on for dear life. But no, the fire department is in good shape, and we're making good progress moving forward every day. So I'm happy where we're at now, and I'm very happy to see what we can go up with on the road. The issue with that truck is that's really the only purpose we can use it for. It cannot respond to any fires or anything like that. It will not pass pump test. It will not pass ladder test. It has no real benefit to the fire department. The truck's in failing condition. It's been poorly looked after, and we can't afford to fix it. I mean, the hydraulics leak. They leak down as it sits behind the building. It's just not very feasible to keep that truck when we really don't have a use for it.
And even if you have to take it out and not to put it on the road, you still have to have the insurance in case you have
Yes,
an
ma'am.
accident.
Yes, ma'am. And the hydraulics the hydraulics will control the stabilizers and the ladder. It's getting worse and worse shape. It's to the point that I don't know that this is going to happen, but it's to the point to where it could have a catastrophic failure and the whole thing fall.
Yeah.
And that would be detrimental.
You said that's the one that normally hangs the flag on
Yes,
the
sir.
fourth and stuff?
Yes, sir. Since I've been with the town, that's the only thing it's ever been used for, and it's the only thing it legally and safely can be used for.
We have another truck that can be used for that same purpose.
So we have the newer ladder truck. I say newer; it's a 1998 model. But as looking out for the town's public safety, I don't know that putting it on the road, hanging the flag, and we have a large structure fire, with these in Hall Tree or something like that, that would.
Not a good
Yeah,
thing to be
correct.
using life-saving equipment for decoration. I
Correct.
understand. What's the approximate value you think we might be able to get out of that? Any ballpark?
6,000 to 10,000 at best. I mean, it's a 1990 model, and it's rough, for lack of a better term.
But it's
Diesel.
also
That's a
becoming,
diesel, right?
It is a Detroit. The motor is great. You can go over there now, and it's never plugged in, and it'll fire right up. But everything else on it has fell apart.
That.
but it's also becoming a liability to continue the practice of.
We hadn't had a problem, so we have 3 digital mobiles that are mounted. Well, there's one in the brush truck, one in our primary engine, and then the medical truck will have one when we finish it. And then we have 10 portables. And that covers all the first response personnel, anybody that's medically licensed. So that the only people police and EMS, as you know from the commission, that's the only people that's operating on digital right now. So that covers us pretty well. So we got 10 portables.
Okay.
How many paramedics do we have now over there?
With paramedic, as far as paramedic licensure level, we have 1. But now EMTs, there's 5 of us.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Plan to add 1 and another part-time to fill a spot, and he's EMT as well. If they work day shift, they have to be a minimum of medical responder.
Okay.
So.
Say it helps out the ambulance crew a lot, don't it?
A couple other surrounding agencies, we're looking to host a EMR class, emergency medical responder, which is the entry level. In the state of Tennessee, you have emergency medical responder, EMT basic, advanced EMT, which is what most of us are, and then EMT paramedic. If we could have everybody to the EMR, EMTB level would be great. So yeah, we're looking at hosting a class either late in the fall this year, or early next year to get a few more trained up to that level.
Okay.
Finding instructors for that is difficult. most of them work for the colleges, so.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, guys. Yep.
Thank you.
Alright, so that being said, has everyone had a chance to look over the budget? Does anyone have any glaring questions before we just address the revenue shortfalls? So if you look on the last page under, just above the fund balances, it's highlighted your excess funds available. That's the difference between your revenues and expenditures. So we're at $168,395 shy of balancing our budget. So one recommendation that I'm gonna throw out there would be a 20-cent property tax increase. So our property tax rates since 2003 have been 1.38, with the exception of 3 years in 2018, 19, and 2020. There was a 30-cent tax increase, and it was 1.67. Of course, when the reassessment was done, the state set the rate back to 1.38. So if we do a 20-cent increase, the revenue generated off of that additional revenue would be close to $180,000, which would balance our budget, allow us to get the truck and continue moving forward with the plans that we have in the town, as far as grants and improvements and things of that nature.
How much would that be, say that you got a $100,000 house, how much more would that be?
So there's the way that you calculate your, your personal impact would be taking the assessed value of your property, and you divide it by 100, and then you multiply that by your tax rate. So let's say get my calculator out here. Let's say your assessed value is $172,000. So you're going to divide that by 100. 1,000. Yeah, that's a big
very
one.
high for this.
Okay,
The
give me.
tax assessment average is about 100 to 120,000.
Okay, so we'll say 100,000 then. So you take your assessed value divided by 100,000, divided by 100, 1,000, multiply it by your tax rate, which is 1.3897. So that's $13.89. Now, if you do the same thing with the rate after your increase, which would be 1.58. I did it on our entire revenue versus like personal impact. so I'm having to do this again. Okay, sorry. So 1,000 times 1.58. $15.80. So yeah, $2, and it'd just be $2 increase
A month?
year.
A year?
Yes.
Okay.
You're looking at. I think didn't I do yours, Darby, and it was going to be $30
Something I can
a
do,
year.
something like that.
I did it on a couple of different locations. I did it on myself, my own personal home, and the increase was going to be $50 on average per house. So, I mean, it's not gonna be a huge, like, individually speaking, it's not a huge impact individually, but as a whole, you're looking at, $180,000, which is really a lot for us to be able to do things with.
So essentially, we've had the same tax rate since 2003.
Yes, with the exception of the 3 years when there was a 30-cent increase. So I mean, realistically, if you have lived here in any of those years, you've already paid a 30-cent, your rate has already been 30 cents higher than it is now. Of course, with the reassessment, I mean, there's a lot of things that go into it, but I personally feel like I would much rather have my taxes increased and be able to go to the park or drive down Main Street and have, pretty things, flowers or a nice playground or a walking trail, and see that my tax dollars are going for these things, and it's bettering the town versus, well, we're gonna not do these things and not, supply a good community, or not supply, but
Census that they did.
I understand where you're coming from, but at this point, the way that I'm saying it is, we're asking a 30-cent increase to pay for a fire truck.
Well, the raises too, right? Is that what we? Cost of living.
Everything is in the budget. I mean,
and we're not
really and truly what you could look at it as, under our street lights.
Gas is more
Just the
expensive.
increase in the street lights from AEP was,
60.
Well, can we
Yeah.
look and
Our
cut back
trash
on something
contract
else
went
in this
up
budget?
80,000. I mean, everything has gone up. Whether we get a brush truck or not, let's say we don't get a brush truck.
Then would you
Where's-
budget be balanced?
No,
No,
because
it
the
would
cost
not.
of everything still went up.
Yeah.
Inflation did.
It'd be like
Yeah.
everybody's living on 2,000 wages. I mean, from 2,000 with their wages now, you couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Now, the things that you mentioned, you said the trash contract went up, how much
Yes.
did it go up?
It went up.
Yeah, trash went up. I didn't think before you came, all the price cut man told me that it was gonna go up.
Trash contract went from, let's see, the actual 19 budget was 38,500, 2020 42,900, 21 41,000, 22 was 38,900, and then this year currently with the increase, we're projected to end at 85,000. That's 117% increase on street lights.
Thank you, ADP.
Yeah. Now, over time, it will, that once they switch everything to LED, it will go down significantly. But they're not willing to go out and just replace streetlights. So it could take 10 years before all of those are turned to LED. They're only gonna replace the bulbs with LED bulbs whenever they go out. Unless we could upfront the cost, but it's $160 each light.
We figured out to be
There's
like half a million
3,000
dollars.
lights.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's, that won't happen.
What's the, what was the difference in the lights? Sorry, I'm over here doing math and missed that one. The difference of the lights?
It went from 38,900 to, we're projected to end the year at 85,000.
And so we're budgeting 90 for next year?
Yes,
We budgeted 40 or 30 for last year,
yes,
so that's 60,000.
yeah.
So basically, our shortage is almost these two
Utilities.
things combined.
I mean, really, it's not the brush truck, it's the utilities.
That's
The
175,000.
primary increases are the rate increase from AEP for all utilities, the street lights, and then our trash contract with the city of Kingsport.
And gas.
It was a 47% increase.
What was the fuel increase for like the vehicles?
So fuel, we kind of addressed that a couple of years ago, so we've already increased that over the last 3 years. I mean, it's gone up, it goes up every year, but it's not a significant, you know, thing. But
So to keep the lights on.
yeah, those are the three big things that, have impacted the budget. And then, you know, we're obligated to provide services, we're obligated, we've got the fire department, we're responsible for, you know, putting out fires if there's a fire.
Mm-hmm.
So I just think if we say, hey, we're not gonna get this brush truck, you know, we're really doing an injustice to the community by not providing a service that we're obligated to provide.
How is our tax rate compared to other areas around the community?
Johnson City went up 25 cents.
Yeah,
I think that's what they provide.
yeah.
Yeah.
So we have to rely on our property tax revenue. It's stable and.
Well, isn't there anything in the budget that we can cut back on? Donation, and what about this, getting down to recreation? We've got two different, joint recreation
They
things.
don't pay for that anymore, that's why the.
I know we
24
don't.
went to zero.
I know we don't, that's not what I'm asking, but,
There's, those line items are zero. We're only paying the utilities and, an LPRF grant that we budgeted for, which we've applied for that. So we can't cut anything in recreation. We cannot cut library because of maintenance of effort. We have,
speaking of that, didn't we have to have a roof put on it, or what was
Yes. We will be putting a roof on the library. There's no way around that. I mean, this is the problem we're running into. We've gone years and years without keeping up with things. So, you know, at this point, we're gonna have to make repairs to our buildings. As I have looked, I've spent hours combing through this, and there is no way to cut it anymore.
Well, we've not wasted a lot of money as far as wasting money, on, this town. You know,
Yeah.
On the roof, is that gonna be asphalt or metal?
Probably
one's it?
shingles.
Which one's the cheapest?
Shingles.
For the library.
Yeah, we got a cost, estimate, it was gonna be $10,000. That's what I budgeted.
So what would it be if you do, I mean, what would it cost if we went to metal, which you would have to be at over 50
You're
years?
looking at 15 to 20,000.
I think that would be double.
With the price of metal right now, it's a little bit more expensive.
Metal is definitely more
I know
expensive.
most shingles, you get 30 years out of shingles nowadays.
Mhm.
30, 40 years.
Yeah.
But I'm lean. I mean, we haven't seen increases like the three items that
Yeah.
I mean,
There's years that could
Yeah.
tank the town.
yeah,
There's years that could tank the town, just that expense.
yeah.
That's why it's cost so much for the sewer plant, everything, cause the other guy that had in here, he didn't do a daggone thing. And they wasn't nothing done, the sewer plant since I think 2015,
Yeah, it's been neglected for years.
wasn't even touched.
yeah.
And we
They
just,
would find money to waste somewhere, but they never done nothing. Didn't do it.
And we did pay the first phase of the sewer plant with cash.
That comes out of the sewer,
But had we been
that doesn't come
doing
out of the budget.
what
Yeah,
we were supposed to do, we wouldn't have to be doing this.
Oh, I agree with you.
your sewer budget is
Pay for
totally
the sewer rate.
separate. It's balanced. It
Well, no.
doesn't really change a lot as long as we're making money.
I mean, I thought about phase one, we're there,
Oh, yeah.
it's been
I was just
cash,
used to
correct?
this.
You said 130.
Yeah, we'll see.
Oh, here's my notes. I'm sorry. I found my notes where I did it. Yeah, let's see, a 15-cent increase would be $46 for the year per, like on average. So you would be looking at, $46 a year on your property taxes. So
You said at 15 cents.
that would be for 15 cent. I did it for a couple of different, increases.
What was it for 20?
I just took an average, the property value 122. Yeah, the assessed value was 30.
She had it on $100,000.
Yeah.
She had it on $100,000.
Your, okay, so your property value is 122, the assessed value is 30.
You got this built in with the house payment, you get your
Yeah,
house payment.
so that's your property
I mean,
value.
every month it would go up a little bit, cause you take that 50 and average it by the 12 months.
So it goes to works on it.
Yeah.
People's gonna be doing it.
Yeah.
I'm not even looking at the public having steps.
So if it released at 20 cents, how much would it be on $130,000?
Let me do it real quick.
And that $130,000 you're saying is the market value.
No, the tax assessed.
Well, that's,
So-
so she's talking about a residence that's gonna be 4 times that then, right? The assessed value is 25% of the market value, is it not?
Yes.
Yeah.
I do a 12-cent increase, that goes up to $463, which is 37 additional dollars a year. You do a 15-cent increase, it goes to $472, which is a $46 dollar a year increase, and then the 20 is gonna be about 50. Let me do the calculation real quick.
It's gonna come up more than 3 cents.
Yeah.
Her original number was.
We have to go see Darby and probably get a loan.
How much did the county
Jenny,
want?
that's true, and I just get another.
No, no, that's your number right now. Just, we'll talk later. We're $2 million before we start.
I've been hearing people say about taxes went up, I know the city hasn't went up.
I think it'll be on there yet.
City hasn't went up in, except for those 3 years that she was talking about,
Yeah.
2018, 19, and 20. So that's when people were talking about the taxes just going up and up and up. It's not the city's taxes, it's been the county's taxes
Yeah.
over the years. But yeah, we'll talk about that after.
And I prefer the wheel tax over there, going up on everybody.
Okay, so for 20 cents, you're looking at $92 increase for the year. It would go to 518, from 426 to 518.
You say 92?
Yes.
It's a lot.
$100 in 1 year's time. $92 divided by 12 is $7 a month. What do you do for $7.66 a month?
I can put
Right,
it,
you
I
get the
can put it
Hardee's.
somewhere that add up, I can make money off of it.
You can't either.
We can too, and then we
You go
can
back down.
do the things that we need to do in the town.
Thing, like,
And then
What
we
about
get
the
taxed
interaction?
like that every year. I think we need to take another look at that. Enough money in there to, a lot of cash. Old Jim here would shoot 2 or 3 people for 100,000, wouldn't he? At least you thought about it some time ago.
Well, obviously, we can't make any decisions tonight, but is everybody satisfied they understand what the proposal is?
Yes.
So that we can talk about it at your meeting. Because last time we tried to bring up a meeting, it was, I think, widely agreed that you needed to do the workshop to look at things. And hopefully Emily's, giving you the information you need then to, deliberate on it at the, regularly scheduled BMA meeting.
What there's nothing going to change with the AEP, I mean, that's what I'm looking at.
Right.
That's right in your face, and
What
the
if they,
trash,
and what if they raise the
trash
rate
truck,
again?
it's not, yeah, it's right in your face, it's not changing.
The other thing is, the cable,
Yeah, my internet.
and your insurance on the phone.
Yeah, my car insurance went from 84
This,
to 127.
the current budget, maybe the deficit has, and so does not
I didn't
include
put that
fire
on my
trucks.
insurance. And that was
Yeah,
my
what I did was I put it in the, I did put it in there, it's under the equipment, I put it in for 200,000.
My brother's in Florida, his is $4,700.
I mean, I did like a minimal increase.
Oh, it's
not like
I
it's
think
big,
I
it's
budgeted
actually
35,000.
We're getting
Oh,
there.
extra.
Air packs, so they're only
There's
gonna
gonna be one hand
get
that's
half of
safe
the
there.
air packs that they would have.
It's about halfway out.
$168,300 a whole.
They just can't change it, you know, by themselves, willy-nilly, you know. And whether it's still justified or not,
I
something
added
they have to
the
justify.
budget,
it.
the fire truck's already in the budget.
You're right, it's still that way.
If I took it out of the budget, I'm going
Your
to
flowers look very nice out.
put the 45,000 in there,
Right.
so it's gonna only be, let's see.
From what you was making in 2000, you can't pay the entire thing, it's expensive as now.
It'll
Well,
only
we're
be
not
23,000.
resistant to inflation. The city's not resistant to inflation at all. We've been hit no different than every household's been hit.
But I think
I
we
got
got a
another
good job
question
getting
in
everything.
it too.
5,000 will come out.
If we hadn't had Emily managing the expenses this
So that
year,
would-
the way it's been,
Now, we are going to pay out the brush pickup, I mean, not the brush pickup, but the trash that they throw along. An average, they go about 5 times a week, 5 times a day to Bradley Creek. So if we don't, what is the average that you think that we will be saving to, not make the trips to Bradley Creek and pay, the gas going down there 5 times a day?
Is that how many trips they make a day?
An average on 5 trips, an average, and sometimes they go over that average.
what are we going to do?
But we're talking about you know, where they go along and they throw their trash out and it's supposed to be brush and it begin,
Large
you
item
know.
pickup?
Huh?
Large item?
Yeah, slide up, but you don't see a lot that goes on. We just wondered how much we're gonna save by not going and doing that every day.
You're asking how much we're gonna save by the resolution just passed?
Right.
Okay, how much we're gonna save, okay, that's.
I know you want to cut it.
Yeah,
I thought you
because
said you
like
wanted
I
to get rid of
said, they go about 5 times a day down at Bradley Creek, and that's a lot of gas when you burn.
So that's going to
Diesel.
affect June 1st, isn't it?
Yeah.
So we don't know.
We need to get a letter out then.
I don't know, what the impact of that will look like.
Okay. But it will be saving quite a bit of money there, because, I mean, you know, diesel's not cheap. And it's a diesel truck and they have to add, I think they have to add something to that diesel truck. That diesel fuel,
Yeah.
if I'm not mistaken.
Yes, ma'am.
I think I talked to them once before, 2 or 3 years ago. And, so that saves some money right there.
What was the, I'm sorry, were you finished?
Yes, I'm done.
Did we have a cost on the roof?
For the
For
library? Yeah, 10,000.
10,000.
It is under, administration.
So those three, the increase of trash, the trash pickup, the increase of lights, and the library roof.
What's next?
Next we've got, one thing that we're working on, I've talked to Alan a little bit about it, and this is just for information purposes. The lease agreement with the EMS building for EMS.
Back when Churchill EMS, now Carmel agreed to the station of a unit in town, there was a lease drawn up, and that lease explained who would do maintenance, who would do different things. When they went bankrupt and Hawkins County EMS moved in, there was apparently never any lease agreement signed. And that has led to some, issues regarding who is responsible for what. Apparently the utilities were turned off in the building and the pipes froze and it cost the town $11,000 to fix the pipes. Without some kind of lease agreement specifying who's responsible for what, we have a problem holding anybody accountable, I guess is the way to put it. Now, we obviously want the service to continue, but we're starting to work on some type of lease agreement. If anybody has any thoughts on the lease agreement or how it should be structured, we'd welcome those thoughts. But I think it's important going forward that we get a lease agreement if they're gonna be on our property.
Can you provide us with a copy of the lease that Churchill EMS had?
Yes, we can provide you with a copy of the agreement that the lease was Churchill. I have a copy of that. I'm glad to give copies to Emily.
And I'm not looking at this from it being like a revenue stream of trying to charge them any type of rent and things like that, more just a covering our liabilities of.
Like they take care of utilities, they
We
take care of.
we want it to be a net zero transaction, right? It's not.
That'll be kind of the starting point, and then when we get back together next month, we'll go over it, and if you've got ideas or, thoughts on it, then we'll just address them at that time.
Have you talked to, Hopkins County about that yet? About what we're doing?
Yes, they're aware.
Okay.
Cause I asked if we were not able to locate one here, and I asked, their representative if they had a copy of anything, and they didn't either, so that's kind of what started is, well, we need to have something in place.
Or
It
they don't
was just
think
an
we,
emergency quick thing, the one was pulling out and we needed the service container, so it was just,
Yeah.
let's get together.
We get any rent or anything off that building?
No.
No, no, it was $1 a year, I think is what it was for.
They was asking me, and I said, well, really, I'm not sure, it's either June or July.
Yeah, it'll be July, we'll go out for bid.
So when Alan said he'd give you that copy, did you email it?
Yeah.
So I can take a look at it?
Yeah.
It's very rudimentary. It's a one page and another paragraph.
Yeah.
You'll wanna come up with something a little more detailed, but that'll give you a good start. At least shows you that there was that agreement in the beginning.
Right.
Does anybody else have anything? That's all I've got.
So what's going on, the agenda for?
We'll have, the ordinance for the budget amendment will be on there. We'll have the ordinance for the actual budget, our next fiscal year budget. And then we need to do an ordinance for changing the time of the meeting.
That's what we talked about this last one, right?
Yes, so that'll be on there as well.
Oh, that would
We
be
did
like
the first vote then.
old business, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah,
We already technically did the first vote on that.
Yeah.
Yeah, we did.
I like that idea.
Uh,
I like that.
I like that idea.
So this next month, we'll have the first reading of the budget, and that'll just be brought up, proposed as presented today,
Yes,
including that, at that rate, at the 20-cent rate. Is that part of the budget,
it's
or is that?
not in the budget, so if we'll present the budget and then
Decide 15 or 20.
just make, somebody will have to make a motion on.
So at that point, would that be amending what we have, or would that be
No, you'll just make a motion,
to adopt that rate?
yes.
Okay.
I'd like to say it's easier, I believe, to go at 20 cents and do 15, and 2 more years later, somebody else has to raise it again.
Yeah.
Just do it one time.
Yeah,
Yeah, boy.
like a Band-Aid.
Move on, get off, move on.
I just don't like raising the taxes on our people.
Nobody
I mean,
does.
I think we can still cut back on some things.
what things?
Well, we can't change what AUP has
Yeah,
done.
well, we can't change, we can't cut
what
back.
trash is going to be, we can't change that.
We can cut the raises out and then we'll end up losing part of our workforce.
Well, we don't need to cut back that, that's what I'm saying, the spending money is just, maybe we can cut back on some of our programs.
Which ones?
They add up to $180,000 a year.
No, but still, yeah, every little bit counts.
Yeah, people expect certain stuff when they spend already, I mean, people expect stuff from us. Can't take everything away, just take the
Yeah,
money.
cause I mean, I don't know if we're talking about outreach or the senior center or what we're talking about here, but each one of them has a valuable service to the town.
I don't know exactly what happened, so we didn't.
Yeah, but-
Gotta keep-
You still up first?